Hello, everybody back at home. My name is Amalina Kamal, and I'm joined by my colleague,
Adit Povera.
and we're from the NST News Desk. And today, I hope you guys are not too lazy, even if it's on a Sunday, because we're going to be talking about the state polls, or at least the developments leading towards it, right?
Yes.
And for today, we are joined by Dr. Azmi Hassan, who is Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research Senior Fellow. Dr. Azmi, hello.
Welcome back, Doctor. I mean, I'm sure that you're familiar to the setting, yes.
Yes, correct.
So, Dr. Azmi, first of all, to start, how do you like us to address you?
You can call me Saudara Azmi. It looks me make younger, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, for today, right, because we're talking about the state elections, and for the state elections, so 6 states here are of concern here. So it's Kedah, Penang, Selangor, Negri Sembilan, Kelantan, and Terengganu. And a recently, Election Commission has, announced the polling day, which is on August 12th, and then July 29 will be the nomination dates, right? So leading up towards those, I suppose, important dates, what do you think is, I suppose, the call to action for both the political parties on both divides, I suppose?
Until nomination date, Amalina, I'm still waiting for the poster boy.
Poster boy.
Poster boy for Negri Sembilan and also poster boy for Selangor, both for Pakatan Harapan and Perikatan Nasional. These are the two entities that will be going each other. But again, even though this is a state election, but it's very critical because the result will be, or the repercussion will be at the national level. Why I'm saying that is that this is I would say, a referendum. Referendum for the unity government. Even though from the 6 states voter, but I guess let's say if Pakatan Harapan won landslide, then it's an endorsement for the unity government. But on the other hand, if Pakatan Harapan lost with a big margin, then the 6 state voters have said that they don't want unity government. That's my thinking. That's the reason I say this is a very critical election because it's kind of referendum. Referendum for the unity government, referendum for the prime minister. So it's very, very important here.
And for the state elections to be conducted concurrently, how important is that? Because as you know, last time, I think it was done separately, and then people might not know if there's any sort of significance to it, right?
Yeah, I think that's because we have been used to the general election and the state election is concurrently, simultaneously. And the first time that we went through, except for Sarawak, I think for the last general election, where only a few states dissolved their state assembly. But I guess whether they're going to vote for the federal government or not in this coming August 12, I guess, as I said before, it is a referendum for the national politics. But again, Amalina, to answer your question, this particular 6 states election will cost the election commission 0.5 billion. It will cost us 0.5 billion. So I guess that's the not so good thing about not conducting the state election and the general election simultaneously.
All right. Okay. By the way, may I interrupt? Earlier you said that it's a referendum to the unity government and the prime minister. Yep. What if, for instance, in the event that the state elections concluded not in the favor of the unity government per se? How will the outcome of this state election will affect the cooperation at the federal level between PH, Pakatan Harapan, and Barisan Nasional?
The cooperation will remain. It will remain as it is, meaning 19 entities will form the federal government. But the problem is if Pakatan Harapan, let's take an extreme case I did. They lost the 3 states, let's say. Then the number game, the 116 game, the 126 game will going on forever and ever. Because the other side, the Perikatan Nasional said, the people has made a choice. They don't want the unity government. So basically, they have the number. They should have formed the federal government. So the politicking of forming the federal government will not stop. The problem is, Amalina, if this is going on, then the opposition will not do their job, their core job. check and balance.
Right.
Yes.
And the problem is the federal government, the current government, need to defend. They have to answer for it, to contradict whatever the Perikatan Nasional said. The loser will be us, you, Adib, me, and Amalina. We are the loser because both entity cannot perform their core job. That's a problem.
Because there's something that's pushing them. Pulling them back in a sense.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right.
On the other side, what if the state election concluded in favor of the unity government, in favor of the leadership of Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim? What is your view, and how the result will affect the influence of Perikatan Nasional, because they have been riding on this green wave and whatever that they are like capitalizing right now? So what do you think? What is the implication on the opposition?
I'm really hoping that if Pakatan Harapan can keep their 3 states, and also they punch a few holes in Kedah, Kelantan, and Terengganu. No, when I say punch a few holes, I'm being realistic there.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though the Prime Minister said Kedah will be theirs. But again, I'm being realistic here. But if, let's say, PAS lose a few seats, Bersatu lose a few seats in these particular 3 states, meaning that there's a positive vibe toward the unity government. So I'm hoping that all the politicians, especially the member of parliament, will learn their lesson that the number game should stop. Let the current federal government perform their duty. Let the current state government perform their duty to serve the people and the nation. That's what I'm hoping. That's the reason I said the current, the upcoming state election, I'm hoping for a status quo, meaning 3 will remain 3 as it is, but again, a few holes will be punched. Because with these few holes, our politician, our member of parliament, at least they can think what's good for them, what's good for the people. So I'm really hoping that this upcoming state election will serve a lesson, or will serve a reminder to our politicians.
Okay, following up to that, right, I would like to know, because you did mention, I suppose, the current unity government will need to look at ways in terms of how to buy back the trust, I suppose, especially in northern state. And I believe like the biggest stumbling block for our unity government is areas such as in Kedah and Terengganu and Kelantan, right? So in your opinion, what kind of like campaign would be more appealing to voters who are coming from that side?
Amalina, whatever you promise to the voters in these 3 states, let me pick an example, an extreme example. Maybe Adib won't agree with that. Let's say the federal government said, we'll give Kelantan state government 5 billion. And by tomorrow, we'll replace all the piping system, and the water problem will be solved. Do you think the Kelantan voters will change their mind, change their heart? I don't think so. So whatever campaign that the federal government use, especially on the economic matters or on the social well-being on these 3 states, it doesn't matter. It won't change much. And if Datuk Seri Anwar said, okay, let's build the Kulim Airport, Kedah, how pessimistic I sound, but will remain to PAS. Because their core support of PAS is so strong. Because PAS realized that their way of campaigning using the 3R issues is very easy to influence their supporters. So I guess it's going to be very difficult, Amalina.
But going to that, I mean, we just now you spoke extensively on Kelantan, Kedah, and Terengganu. What about the claims that been made by Perikatan Nasional that they could
Northern Selangor,
capture like Selangor, or even make inroads in states like Penang and Negri Sembilan? Do you think there's any basis to this, that they certain PN leaders could make such a claim? that they are confident enough to make such a claim?
Yes, there are bases to it, but the claim will not end up changing of government in this particular Pakatan Harapan state. Let's take Penang, for example. I think this is based on the general election 15 result last November. Perikatan Nasional took the most of the seberang perai. Tasik Glugo, Permata Ampau, and also Kepala Batas, which contain 9 state seats there. I think when Tan Sri Mahyudin said they are confident to gain 20 seats, I think that's more psychological warfare. I think the most they can get is 9 seats, state seats in this particular 3 parliament constituency. And as Amalina said in Selangor, yes, during GE15, Amalina, the northern part of Selangor went to Perikatan Nasional. So I think that's based on that. But still, Pakatan Harapan still have majority of the state seats. But for Negri Sembilan, during GE15, it is a sapu bersih, both by Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional. So it's going to be very difficult. So I think for Negri Sembilan, it's just a say. Not much compared to Penang or Selangor.
Yeah. Just to give our audience a little bit of, like, I suppose, assurance, because Pakatan Harapan chairman himself, Datuk Sri Amiruddin Syari, has actually addressed this. He mentioned that seats in the northern part of Selangor do not traditionally belong to any party, so it's kind of like a swinging state of sorts, kan? So I suppose for me myself, I am a voter in Selangor, but maybe not in the northern part. But I was just looking into this, and if, let's say, someone who comes from that particular region and is rooting for the other side, what would that entail? Like, I mean, for Amiruddin to say something like that, right? It's kind of like, oh, you know something that we don't know, but we're at the grassroots level. So that kind of detachment, do you think it will actually impact PH's campaign, the kind of confidence that they're trying to bring?
Before that, Amalina, yes, you are a voter of Selangor, but YB Amiruddin is my wakil rakyat,
right?
Parlimen Kombak. And I know. Why I'm saying that is that just during GE15, it was elephant fight elephant in Parlimen Kombak. 2 elephants are fighting, which is YB Amiruddin, the former Menteri Besar, and also another former Menteri Besar, also my wakil rakyat for Don Bukit Antarabangsa, Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin. But at that particular juncture, a lot of people think there will be a close fight. But Amiruddin won by 10,000.
Yes.
So I guess what I'm trying to say that yes, in northern part of Selangor, before this, it was a Barisan Nasional stronghold, way back before this. But again, with Pakatan Harapan won for the last few years, I guess it can happen anything. It can, anything is possible right now in the northern part of Selangor. But it won't be guaranteed that it will be Perikatan Nasional, because in Selangor, PAS is not that strong.
Still.
In fact, PAS is a taboo. It's a pantang larang, PAS itself, same as in Sarawak or in Sabah. So I guess, yes, Perikatan Nasional won the bulk of northern Selangor during GE15, but this state election, as I said, is a referendum for the unity government. So I think the voters are quite intelligent now. What decision should they make?
Okay.
By the way, coming to that, Doctor, I mean, even we go back to GE15, there's a lot of skeptics being placed on the chances of, at the time, PS and PN like winning a majority number of seats whatsoever. But then again, GE15 happened, and then it seems like, yes, there's like some sort of discontent among Malay voters that they voted PN and PAS. So, do you think for the upcoming state elections, is it like right or correct for us to undermine PAS and PN, or should the unity government worry about this green wave?
We shouldn't, or any party shouldn't undervalue their opponent. We have seen that during GE15, but one factor that really affect GE15 or where the green wave occurred is because UMNO is at its weakest point. Compared UMNO then, pre-GE15, and also UMNO right now, UMNO, the president, I would say the deputy, The Vice President plus the Supreme Council are in control. You know, the duri dalam daging already been shifted out. So I would say that it is very critical for the President to control UMNO to show that they are strong. Because this is a psychological warfare of the Malay voters. So when UMNO, even though they are part of the unity government, willing to go against DAP, for example, but it's good. It's good for the unity government because it demonstrates that UMNO is strong. Yeah, meaning a strong UMNO will entice the Malay voters. So it's totally different from G15, and now I think that the riding factor is UMNO. So I guess within the unity government or within Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional, UMNO is I would say, the workhorse to attract the Malay voters.
Coming to that point, Doctor, what do you make of the decision by MCA and MIC not contesting in the upcoming state polls? I'm sure that we have read reports that that the BN chairman have explained what had happened, but from your view, what does this decision by the two component parties in BN reflects the preparation of the coalition going into the polls?
Yeah, the explanation by BN chairman or MCA president or MIC president is very diplomatic.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be very diplomatic here. The problem is the seat allocation between Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional is based on the incumbent seat. Who holds seats right now? So the problem with MCA is they have none. MIC has only one state seat in Negri Sembilan.
Yeah.
So the problem is that if any seats were to be given to MCA or MIC, it must be from the Barisan Nasional quota, or more specifically the UMNO quota. And we know that it's been going for some time. The MCA or MIC, they have been riding the support from UMNO supporters. So I think MCA, MIC, they are pragmatic here. I think that's the reason why Datuk Sri Sanusi invite both MCA and MIC to join Perikatan Nasional. And MCA, MIC, no. Where should they stay? Because general election 16 is coming, maybe in 4 years' time. But again, I think where MCA and MIC is, they are with Barisan Nasional, not on the other side. Because look what happened in Gerakan. Yes, they have seats. They can contest. But then can they win? That's another question.
Okay. Doctor, what about this narrative, since MIC and MCA is sitting out of the state polls? Does this narrative that this upcoming state polls is a make or break for not only Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi as the UMNO president, but also the party itself, whether it can deliver the Malay votes to the unity government?
Yeah, but again, Adib, I don't think so. UMNO can perform worse than general election 15.
Okay.
Because at that particular juncture, I think UMNO is at the weakest point. I don't think so that, the seats that they're going to be allocated is most probably the incumbent seat, except maybe not for Selangor. But we have to remember, there is a Pakatan Harapan supporter. Now, for Pakatan Harapan supporter, let's go specific DAP supporter, for example. If I know there are uneasiness about working with UMNO, DAP, Amalina. But if Pakatan Harapan supporter does not vote for UMNO candidate, meaning that they are giving chance to pass candidate. And I think the Pakatan Harapan knew that the alternative is not so rosy if they don't vote for UMNO candidate. So that's the reason I said UMNO cannot perform worse than GE15, because GE15, they are solo. But in the coming state election, they are with Pakatan Harapan. So I guess, in fact, they will be perform better compared to GE15.
Okay, Doctor. Let's move on the issues that are being played or being addressed, that being reported in the media whatsoever. Of late, there has been a rising number of racial rhetoric being played by certain individuals, so head of state election.
Yeah, Dr. Mahathir's assertion that Malaysia isn't a multicultural nation. There's a bit of a
offbeat, I guess.
Yeah, a bit offbeat, especially in today's time, if I might say. But and then also Hadi's accusation of the AP as using Malay spokesperson. But it's not just from one side, but it's also from the other side, right? So I think recently PAS slammed the AP chairman Lim Guan Eng for saying that if you vote for PAS, they're going to, tear down all the temples and stuff like that. So all these are part of the 3 Rs, but it's not necessarily, and it's something that IGP has pushed against, like don't play 3 Rs because you'll be taking an action. But why is it still being paraded?
Yeah, before I answer specific to that question, Malina, during my school days in the 70s, late 70s, as a student there, in my classmate, they are Caucasian, they are Chinese, they are Indian. I don't see them differently. They are my classmate. But currently, it's totally different. The political ideology is divided by the 3R factor.
Okay.
So I'm really yearning for my student days in the 70s. I felt sorry for the student nowadays in Sekolah Kebangsaan, for example. There's only one group, similar group, which is the Malays. If you go to the international school right now, that's how our school, I know Adib, you are not there, in the 70s. That's how our school all are together. So I think from GE15, Malina, PAS learned that if they use the 3R system, the factor there, they can attract the Malay voters. And currently, the state election, the Malay voters are the kingmakers.
But what does that say about Malay voters themselves, right? Like, you're so susceptible to the 3Rs when you're already being warned against it, right? So,
yeah, because these are very sensitive issues when you're talking about race, for example, or religion, or the monarchy. I guess the Malay are very sensitive to it. And PAS, they are good at, especially PAS. If you look at the campaign during GE15, they use TikTok, for example. I'm not sure Adib has a TikTok account or not. But again, if you look at their campaign in TikTok, it is very convincing.
yeah.
So it's very difficult. When you're playing with your, sensitivity, you put aside facts. So PAS has been portraying that they are the party that can protect the Malays. They are the party that are synonymous to Islam. And they are the party that can protect the monarchy. So this plays very well, jive very well with the Malay voters. I think that's the reason why, even though the IGP said do not use it, I'm sure it's been going on for quite some time. And especially during the campaign period, it'll be going on.
But as if they are like, when they are resorting to playing up these issues, it's like that try and tested formula already. Do you think we should put a stop on this? And because this is not the way for the country to move forward, right?
Yeah. When I say in the 70s, because the politician at that time, maybe they are not that smart at that time, they don't use the 3R issue. But after that, late 80s and onwards, they use these particular 3R issues. I think that's where we are now. So going back is very difficult. But if you go to Sarawak and Sabah, I think that's how I felt in the 70s and 80s. No, really, Adib. In Sabah and Sarawak.
Today, you mean?
Yeah, today, right now. I think that's the reason why Sabah leaders said, or especially Sarawak leaders, Abang Jo, the Premier, said, don't bring Malaysia, or they said Malaya politics to Borneo, into Sarawak.
East Malaysia.
Because it's very, very negative. It will split the people in a 3R factor. I think it's very sad. I don't blame the people. No, I don't blame the people, Amalina. I blame the politician. Because this is the easiest way to gain political benefit.
And then with regards to that, right? So I believe, like, I correct me if I'm wrong, but when I see it on a national level, probably yes, we might be still seeing each other based on creed and color. But on an interpersonal level, the needs or the demands are actually the same. We want access to basic essentials like food, shelter, and all sorts of that, right? But again, like what I just want to emphasize what Adib mentioned, because this particular tried and tested formula is like ingrained in our society, or at least the peninsular politics. Do you see anyone of particular who's actually moving away from that? Any political candidate that is actually moving away from that?
Yes, there are few candidates, or not few candidates, few politicians or member of parliament that are trying to move away from the 3R factor and talking about the bread and butter issue. I think that's the most critical part. But again, why President Biden decided to provide Ukraine with a cluster bomb? Because the Russians are using it. So in order to eliminate Russian advantage, United States is giving the cluster bomb to Ukraine. I think it's same here. How can we eliminate this particular 3R issue is to go each other against each other. On both sides, as you mentioned just now, both sides are using this particular 3R issue. So to eliminate it, no, I don't think so. It's going to be very difficult. It all depends not on the politician, it's all depend on the people. If the people reject it, then the politician will learn the lesson. But I don't think so. At the current level, the people reject it outright.
Okay, coming back to what you said just now, it's up to the people to reject it. So, what do you make of like because apparently the EC announced that there's going to be more than 9 million, almost like 10 million people, registered voters in the 6 states. Do you think the people wanted to go again to the ballot box to, like, you know, say to the government that because they want this and that? So
correct, because it has been the same thing irrespective of if it's like a state elections or general elections, because it's always about you know, removing this from our identity, especially when it comes to politics, right? But it's always the same thing. It's kind of like a broken record already.
But not this time, Amalina and Adib. Why I'm saying that is that because the current unity government, I would say, with our political situation right now, is the best form of federal government, where it consists of not only different component parties in, when you say Semenanjung Peninsula, I love to use Malaya. Yeah.
Malaya, okay.
Okay. Well, it consists of UMNO and Pakatan Harapan. Who would have one thing that UMNO and DAP will be in the same government?
Yeah, of course.
But not that only. It consists of the both Sarawak and also Sabah political party. This is the best combination that we have. So that's the reason I said this is a referendum for the unity government. So I guess the result will be, the repercussion will be, it's going to be very, very critical here. So I'm hoping that nearly 10 million voters will be going out in the 6 states, that when they vote, not only for the state government, but for the federal government. Well, if they don't like the composition of the federal government, that's fine. But for those who really appreciate the composition of the federal government, 19 entities, that is okay. Go out and vote. Sacrifice a little bit your time and your money, because it's not easy to hold the 19 different entities. The government of Netherlands, there are only 4 coalition. It's only disbanded because they cannot agree on certain issues.
And we have 19.
19, yes.
So that's a record somewhere, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
In that case, Doctor, I mean, in the event, because we are far away from the nomination day, far away from the polling day, because it's like a month away, in the event the voters turnout did not reach the target, because so far the EC haven't announced, if I'm not mistaken, the EC haven't announced the targeted voters turnout. So in the event the voters turnout falls below 70%, which political coalition will benefit from this?
The usual theory is that if the low voter turnout, Barisan Nasional will have the advantage. That was the theory before this. But again, the current political situation is totally different. So usually the theory is if the low voter turnout, the incumbent will have the advantage. But the problem is the incumbent is 3 and 3.
Yes.
So that's the reason I said, yes, the voter turnout will be much less compared to GE15, and status quo will remain. Meaning that 3 will remain for Pakatan Harapan, 3 will remain for Perikatan Nasional or PAS. But I'm hoping that a few holes will be punched, because with these few holes, it will translate on the referendum what really the people want, even though 1-2 seats. Because if, let's say, Barisan Nasional or UMNO can capture 1 or 2 seats in Kelantan, Terengganu, it's a big deal,
Right.
a very big deal.
And we're talking about seats, right? So total of seats here that are being contested is about 245, and Kelantan and Terengganu specifically is 45 and 32 respectively. So Kelantan and Terengganu, knowing that they are, off the opposite side, what does it take to punch the holes there?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what is take, because I read the news today. I guess I'm not sure who said. I think Syahidan Kasim said UMNO will be wiped out in Kelantan and Terengganu. That's the reason I said at least 1 or 2 holes will be punched, because during GE15 they really, PAS really made a clean sweep. But the problem with the Kelantan voters or Terengganu or Kedah is that if you promise the moon and the star, they will not change their mind. Well, even though I'm a Kelantanese, but I never vote there. But the psychological, how they think, I guess, is a little bit different.
Because it's a legacy kind of like politics, right? Because when it comes to political literacy there also, the introduction it starts from home.
Yeah.
Right? So I suppose, correct me if I'm wrong again, if it's like if you're a PAS voter, then your family is actually a PAS voter, right?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a big misconception.
Well, in my family there are PAS
Okay.
voters, and I'm not sure I didn't know who I vote for.
No, I don't.
Right.
No, but
But because this is just, I'm just kind of throwing out what other analysts are saying,
Yeah.
because especially when it comes to the green wave in the GE15, right? So they were saying like, the rise of the green waves,
Yeah.
or so it's like because they've penetrated. I suppose politics have penetrated since young, especially when it comes to PAS.
That's very true. I would say the education of politics, no, not the education, but
Awareness, I suppose.
the awareness of PAS is Kelantan is PAS, has been embedded. I think it has been ingrained not only in Kelantan but also in Terengganu and now in Kedah. I think that's the reason why it's very, very difficult, because PAS supporter is totally different from UMNO supporters. When PAS leaders say this is white, they will say, the supporters will say white. But if UMNO leader said, let's say the president said, well, we have to work with the AP, the grassroots UMNO will question their leaders, but not with PAS. PAS is currently working with Gerakan. The grassroots questioning about this? No, they won't question because they trust on their leaders. I think the same thing with the voters, the psychological, the way they're thinking. So it's going to be very difficult. But again, I really admire Datuk Seri Anwar confident. I think he did say that Kedah will fall. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they are like focusing on 2 states, but he did not name. I think the reason why he did mention Kedah, I believe, or I may have to be corrected on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but in my point of view, I think put aside Kelantan. So the 2 states, I guess, Terengganu or Kedah, and Kedah in this case. And Terengganu has made a decision. They can go from BN to PAS to BN quite often in Terengganu. And Kedah, we have I would like to say Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Sanusi. He's very, I would say, Trump-like. Among the supporters, have a very strong supporter, but among the fan-sitters, it can go either way. I think that's the reason I said when 2 states, I think Datuk Seri Anwar meant Kedah and also Terengganu.
Okay.
Any follow-up question for you?
I mean, if we talk about the 3 R's, we can go every day, right? Like, it can be until the end. But you did mention about, the voter turnout being about 9 million, right? 9 million?
Nearly 10 million, sorry.
Nearly 10 million. And then out of that pool, we have, I think, close to 700K youth voters there. Do you think it's significant enough of a number to at least help to punch those holes? And,
Yes.
yeah.
I put my hope to the new voter, the younger voter, not only the 18, 19, 20, but also under 35 years of old. Because voter like me will never change drastically. Meaning that if I'm comfortable with this particular party, I will vote for the party. But as we look during GE15, I think the new voters dare to make extreme decision. So Amelina, even though it's only 700,000, I think 700,000 is the Undi 18, the Act Undi 18. But there are, I think in Selangor, for example, there are 1.3 million new voters, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm hoping for these new voters, the first-time voters, can make a decision that translate on the stability of our politics.
I see.
Yeah, I'm trying to be politically correct here.
Right.
I don't have to explain it.
We don't have much time left, so we're going to wrap up. But like, at least we want to end on a note whereby when it comes to like youth in politics, or at least youth to go out to vote, how important is that, especially when it comes to, you know, if let's say them siding with the unity government, helping to, you know, accelerate that referendum, or at least irrespective if they don't support the unity government, they have a voice, they want to support the opposition. What's your take on that? Because and as opposed to like today and back then, right? Because certainly the level of political literacy among the youth has increased thanks to social media as well. But maybe what's the takeaway here, especially when they go out voting?
I think the most important thing is that, you know, I'm comfortable with the current unity government. I'm comfortable with that. The reason is that I said because it's comprised of all walks of political party entity. So I'm really hoping that when you say the youngsters are, in terms of political literacy, they are well aware, maybe or maybe not. The problem is that the younger generation, maybe they rely on the media social for their knowledge input. I think that's very, very dangerous.
Okay.
For example, you know, I just embarked on TikTok 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Compared to Facebook, when I post a post, Facebook maybe around 30 to 40 views in the first half an hour.
All right.
TikTok, they can go thousands in a matter of minutes. I think there's a problem with our political literacy with our youngsters because they rely too much on TikTok. And we know TikTok is only 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minutes of video
Bite-sized content.
Video presentation. So I'm really hoping that when they're making that decision in the August 12, think of the country, think of the people. I'm hoping that that kind of persuasion will bite with the younger generation, but I don't think so, I guess.
Well, I suppose in the next few weeks we'll know. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Azmi, for joining us on NST's video podcast for the state elections. I hope our viewers back at home will also tune in for our upcoming videos, and probably we will bring in Dr. Azmi again, leading like closer to the date itself. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I am Adit Povera.
Thank you so much. Have a good Sunday ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Sembang-sembang. I actually wanted to go into like, because muda.